I shot my husband in the kitchen that Tuesday morning, right between the eyes. Because love's a lie we tell ourselves until the truth bleeds out. My mother watched from the doorway, her diamond earrings glinting like accusations, and whispered, "Finally, Juliet, you've become one of us." But as his body slumped against the fridge, spilling coffee and regret, I realized the bullet wasn't for him. It was for every secret I'd swallowed to keep our perfect American dream from shattering. It started 3 years earlier, in the humid haze of a Savannah summer, when my parents decided my future over brunch at the country club. Juliet Harrington, old money.
Wassergrad.
The girl who could charm a room full of senators, reduced to a bargaining chip in their endless game of social chess. "Marry him," Dad said, fork spearing a piece of quiche like it was an enemy. "It's the only way to bury the mess."
The mess.
That's what they called the affair Mom had with our family accountant, the one that bled our trust funds dry and left Dad's law firm teetering on embezzlement charges. I'd known about it for months, piecing together the late nights and offshore accounts from whispers in the estate's marble halls. But instead of lawyers or cops, they chose me. Sacrifice the golden child to a nobody. Make it look like a love match to the tabloids. And poof, scandal averted. The nobody was Ethan Caldwell, a grease monkey mechanic from the wrong side of the tracks, with tattooed knuckles and eyes that promised escape but delivered chains. Mom leaned in, her Chanel perfume cutting through the magnolia-scented air, and said, "It's where you belong now, darling. Among the real people. Real people." As if our gated community in Buckhead wasn't a fortress of facades. I was 25, fresh off a breakup with a hedge fund prince who ghosted me for a model half my age. And they thought shoving me into a shotgun wedding would ground me. Ethan was handsome in that rough, James Dean way, broad shoulders from wrenching engines, a crooked smile that hid the hunger of a man who'd clawed his way out of foster care. He didn't know the full score. They paid him off with a down payment on a garage in Atlanta, told him it was a fresh start for both of us. I said yes at the altar because saying no meant dragging the family name through the mud, meant admitting I'd covered for Mom's thefts by forging signatures on those damn wire transfers. I'd borne the mistake. The crime, for her, erased digital trails while she sipped rose at galas. Betrayal's first kiss tastes like duty. The wedding was a circus, white tents on the lawn, string quartet mangling at last, guests in seersucker suits pretending not to notice the groom's scuffed boots. Ethan fumbled the rings, his calluses catching on the gold band, and, as he slid it onto my finger, he murmured, "We'll make this work, Jules." I got you. I wanted to believe him. In the fairy tale where the pauper sweeps the princess off her feet. Our first night in the cramped apartment above his shop, smelling of motor oil and takeout Thai, we made love on a futon that sagged like our expectations. He was gentle, tracing the Harrington crest tattoo I'd gotten in rebellion at 18, whispering dreams of flipping burgers into flipping houses. For a month, it felt real. Mornings with black coffee on the fire escape, watching the city wake up in that gritty Atlanta sprawl. Evenings where he'd fix my Beamer while I balanced books for the garage, pretending I wasn't slumming it. But secrets fester like untreated wounds. Ethan's charm cracked first during a family dinner at the estate.
6 months in.
Dad grilled him over cigars on the veranda. "What makes you think you can provide for my daughter?" And Ethan shot back, "Love,
sir.
Something money can't buy." The table laughed, but Mom's eyes narrowed, calculating. Later, in the powder room, she cornered me. "He's using you, Juliet."
Dediper.
Paranoia set in. I started noticing the late nights at the shop, the burner phone buzzing under his pillow. One whiskey-fueled argument. He confessed fragments, old debts to loan sharks from his racing days. Nothing major. But it was enough to plant doubt.
Was he in on it?
Did my parents pick him because he was broke enough to control? The real fracture came at Christmas. Back in Savannah. Snow dusted the live oaks like powdered sugar on a lie, and the family gathered for eggnog and recriminations. Uncle Harlan, Dad's sleazy partner, the one who'd tipped off the IRS about the irregularities, pulled me aside by the grand piano. Your ma's mess is catching up.
Girl.
Those transfers? They trace back to you if it blows. My stomach dropped. I'd signed off on them. Yes, but under duress. Her manicured nails digging into my arm as she sobbed about saving the legacy. Harlan smirked, his breath sour with bourbon. Help me bury it deeper, and I'll make sure Ethan gets that franchise he wants. Blackmail. Layered like the gifts under the tree. I nodded, numb. And that night, I rifled through Ethan's duffel in the guest room. Tucked in a false bottom, a flash drive with ledgers. Not our family's, his. Skimming from the shop's books. Funneling cash to some offshore account mirroring Mom's. Coincidence? Or had they orchestrated this double-dip betrayal? Pitting us against each other to keep the secret spinning? I confronted him at dawn. The Georgia sun bleeding red through the shutters. Who's the real thief here?
Ethan?
You or them? He paced, sweat beading on his forehead, flipping from denial to rage. You think I wanted this cage? Your folks dangled the carrot. Marry the heiress. Get the life. But I fell for you.
Jules.
The rest? Survival. He admitted it piecemeal. Mom had approached him months before the proposal. Offered the payoff if he'd play the devoted husband and keep tabs on me. Said you were unstable. Needed watching. Unstable. For covering her ass. The room spun. Betrayal wasn't a single stab, but a slow poison. Seeping from every corner of my gilded cage. He begged forgiveness. Hands on my shoulders, but his eyes darted like a cornered animal. I shoved him away, grabbed my keys, and drove north, the highway blurring into a blacktop confessional. Atlanta swallowed me whole that winter, neon dives and soul food shacks. The kind of anonymity only the South can fake. I crashed with a sorority sister turned bartender, pouring out the venom over shots of Jameson. Your family's toxic. Jules, she slurred one night. Cut em off. But cutting meant confessing. Meant the feds knocking on my door for those signatures. Instead, I spiraled. Therapy sessions where I lied about the marriage. Freelance gigs editing legal briefs that echoed Dad's firm too closely. Ethan called relentlessly. Voicemails cracking with pleas. Come home, baby. We can fix this. Home. The word tasted like rust. Mom's texts were colder. Don't embarrass us further. Dad sent checks. Silent bribes labeled allowance. Spring thawed the ice in my veins. But not the rot. I hired a PI on the down low. A grizzled ex-cop named Ray who chain-smoked camels and didn't ask questions. His report landed like a gut punch. Ethan's debts were a front for a side hustle, boosting luxury cars for a ring tied to Harlan's associates. And the flash drive? Copies of our family's ledgers. Emailed to an anonymous tip line weeks before. Ethan wasn't just surviving. He was scheming, flipping loyalties like a card sharp. Mom had recruited him, but he'd gone rogue, leveraging the dirt for his own score. Harlan knew. Of course, the three of them. A toxic troika, using me as the fall girl. The PI's last line. Your husband's talking to the DA. Immunity deal in play. Rage bloomed. Dark and thorny. The kind that roots in your bones and chokes out reason. Revenge wasn't a plan, it was oxygen. I drove back to the apartment unannounced, the Beamer purring like a predator. Ethan was there, shirtless, tinkering with a carburetor on the kitchen table, oblivious. Jules, his face lit up, then fell at the ice in my eyes. I didn't yell. I smiled, poured us wine from the fridge, the cheap Merlot we used to share. To second chances, I toasted, watching him drink deep. The pills I'd crushed into his glass, nothing lethal, just enough to fog the mind, did their work slow. As he slurred confessions, spilling how Harlan promised him half the firm if he testified against Mom, how he'd betted my cousin Claire for insurance, I felt the scales tip. Betrayal's mirror. He'd borne nothing for me, only profited off my chains. But I didn't end it there.
No.
The drama demanded an audience. I zip-tied his wrist to the chair, the plastic biting into his ink, and called Mom. Come alone.
Now.
She arrived at dusk, pearls clutched like a rosary, stepping over the threshold into our squalor. Ethan mumbled incoherently, head lolling. As I laid it out, the ledgers, the calls, the web they'd spun with me at the center. Her face crumpled, not with remorse, but calculation. He lied to you, Juliet. I protected you. Protected. From what? The truth that she'd gambled our empire on her lover's promises. That Dad's mistake was signing off on it all. She knelt by Ethan, stroking his hair like a pet, and whispered, we can still fix this. Marry him for real, divorce later. Clean slate. That was the hook that snagged my soul. Not just betrayal, but the flip, the endless lurch from victim to villain. I laughed, bitter as black coffee, and pulled the Glock from my purse. Dad's old service piece, cold against my palm. Fix this how? Mom? By making me the nobody forever? Ethan's eyes cleared just enough to widen in terror. Mom stood, defiant, her voice steel. Shoot him. And you're no better than us. The kitchen clock ticked, a metronome to madness.
Outside.
Atlanta's traffic hummed indifferent. I fired. The recoil snapped my wrist, a jolt that echoed in my teeth. But the satisfaction? It was biblical. A thunderclap in the confessional of our marriage. Ethan jerked once, then stilled, blood trickling like accusation down the fridge door, pooling around the takeout menus we'd pinned up like dreams. Mom gasped, hand to mouth, but her eyes, those sharp, appraising eyes, didn't flinch. What have you done? Juliet, she hissed, voice low, as if volume could summon the neighbors. In Atlanta's sprawl, walls were thin, but mercy was thinner. I lowered the gun, barrel smoking faintly, and met her gaze.
What you taught me.
Clean up the mess. Sirens wailed distant, a siren's song pulling me under. No time for hysterics. I shoved her toward the door. Go. Before they traced the call, and she hesitated, that maternal instinct flickering like a bad bulb. We can say he attacked you. Self-defense. The family's lawyers. I cut her off with a laugh, raw and ragged. The family. Always the family. She fled into the night, heels clicking on the fire escape, leaving me with the corpse and the chaos. I wiped the gun, planted it in Ethan's limp hand, suicide note forged on his phone, rambling about debts and despair. Plausible. In this economy where men like him vanished into the stats. By the time the blues rolled up, I was sobbing on the linoleum, the picture of the grieving widow.
He
was so sad lately, I choked to the detective, a weary black woman named Torres with a no-bullshit stare. She bought it. Or pretended to, in the South. Blood money buys a lot of blind eyes. The funeral was a farce, held in a Baptist chapel that smelled of wax and wilted lilies. Ethan's family, a scattering of mechanics and ex-foster siblings in ill-fitting suits, milled about, murmuring condolences I didn't deserve. Mom orchestrated it all. Her grief a performance Oscar-worthy, black veil. Tissues dabbed just so. Dad stayed away, tied up in depositions, but his check arrived that week. Fat and forgiving. Harlan lurked in the back pew, smirking like he'd scripted the tragedy. I caught his eye during the eulogy, mouthing, "Your turn." He paled. The first crack in the facade. Grief's a funny beast. It hollows you out, leaves room for the dark things to grow. I moved back to the estate. The prodigal daughter returned, but the mirrors showed a stranger, hollow cheeks, eyes like chipped flint. Therapy resumed, this time with a shrink who probed too deep. "Tell me about the anger." "Juliet." "Anger?" "It was a volcano."
capped but rumbling.
Nights. I'd drive the back roads. Radio blasting Springsteen anthems about working-class heroes turned ghosts, plodding in the glow of dashboard lights. Harlan was the linchpin, the schemer who'd flipped from family ally to informant, then back, whispering poisons in every ear. His decisions, tipping the IRS for a cut, betting Mom for leverage, dangling immunity to Ethan, were the controversial threads. The ones that made you wonder, was he the villain? Or the symptom of our rot? Summer sweltered in, humidity thick as unspoken sins. Mom threw a welcome home gala, the garden strung with lanterns like fireflies on steroids. Guests in linen and pearls, toasting my resilience. I played the part, silk gown clinging like second skin, flute of champagne bubbling false effervescence. Harlan cornered me by the fountain, bourbon breath hot on my neck. "Heard about your little accident." "Messy, Juliet, but effective." His hand grazed my arm, proprietary, and I jerked away, spilling wine like blood. "Stay away from my family," I warned, voice velvet over venom. He chuckled, low and lewd. "Your family, girl?
I am your family now."
"That DA deal? It's got your name on it, those signatures. Remember?" The threat landed like a sucker punch. That night, alone in my old room, posters of Frida Kahlo mocking from the walls, I cracked open the safe Dad never changed the code on. Inside, the originals. Yellow docs with my looping JH. On the fraud lines. Evidence. Leverage. But burning them felt too easy. Too final.
No.
Revenge needed teeth. Needed to gnaw at the bones of their empire. I started small. Anonymous tips to Harlan's rivals at the firm. Whispers of his extracurriculars, with underlings half his age. His star dimmed. Clients jumped ship. Dad's sidelong glances turning to scowls. Fall leaves turned the estate crimson. A prelude to the storm. Mom noticed the shift. Her lunches with me laced with probes. Harlan's been distant. "You wouldn't know anything, would you?"
I didn't.
Fork spearing salad like secrets. Me? I'm just healing. But inside, the plan coalesced.
Ray.
The PI dug deeper. Harlan's safe deposit box in Buckhead, stuffed with photos, Mom and him, Entangled in motel sheets, Ethan. Handing over the flash drive like Judas with silver. Blackmail fodder. All of it. You want in? Ray rasped over burner phones. Or you want out?
In.
Always in. Thanksgiving loomed. The holiday of forced gratitude. The table groaned under turkey and tension. Dad carving with surgical precision. Harlan arrived late. Ty askew. Eyes bloodshot from whatever vice chased his demons. Toasts rang out to resilience, to family, but mine was pointed, to truths uncovered. Mom's fork paused midair. After pie, as aunts gossiped in the parlor, I lured Harlan to the study with a decoy text from Ethan's old phone meet. Got the files. He slunk in like a rat, door clicking shut. What game is this? Juliet. No game. I played the recording, his voice, slurring deals with the DA, trading my freedom for his.
His face drained to ash.
You wouldn't, but I would. The letter opener on the desk, sharp as regret,
Caught the lamplight.
Ethan begged too. Remember? Flipped like you always do. He lunged, clumsy with fear, and we grappled, silk tearing, knuckles splitting until the blade found his thigh. A wet rip echoing the shot I'd fired months back. He crumpled, gasping, blood seeping into the Persian rug. Call it even, I whispered, dialing 911 myself. My uncle fell. Hurry. The ambulance wailed him away. Femoral nick just shy of fatal, controversial mercy, or calculated cruelty. Cops questioned. But witnesses were drunk on gratitude. And the blade? Self-defense. He attacked first. Harlan survived, limping into a plea deal that buried the fraud deeper. But his empire crumbled, disbarred, divorced, drifting into the anonymity he'd peddled. Mom watched from the hospital waiting room, her hand on mine cold as marble. You're playing with fire, darling. Fire? I'd become it. Winter gripped Savannah again, frost etching the windows like accusations. Dad confronted me in the library. Fire crackling accusations. This ends now. Juliet. Harlan's talking, says you set him up. I met his gaze. Unflinching. Like you set me up? With the marriage. The lies? He deflated. Old man in a tweed jacket. Confessing fragments. The affair was his idea. A tax dodge gone wrong. Mom the scapegoat he'd shielded. Flip again, the patriarch. Not the protector. I did it for us, he murmured.
Us.
The word that bound and broke. The climax brewed slow. A pot on simmer. Christmas Eve. Snow blanketing the estate like absolution. Guests milled. Carols warbling from hidden speakers. I slipped away to the attic. Dust motes dancing in the gable light. And unearthed the Christmas box, ornaments from childhood. Brittle as bones. Tucked beneath. Mom's diary. Leather-bound relic I'd glimpsed as a girl. Pages yellowed with her script. Entries of desperation. Dad's rages. The accountant's seduction as escape. And me? Juliet knows too much. Must protect her from herself. Lies layered on lies. She'd borne the betrayal too. Or so she claimed, flipping victim in her narrative. Downstairs. The party peaked, laughter tinny as tinsel. I descended, diary in hand, gun in purse. Mom found me by the tree, baubles gleaming like eyes. What now? She asked, voice steady. I held out the book. Read it.
To them.
Her face fractured. Mother. Monster. You destroy us all? The guests hushed, sensing drama. Harlan wheeled in on crutches, uninvited, eyes gleaming with last-ditch scheme. Dad hovered, impotent. I raised the gun not to shoot, but to shatter. Choose, I said, barrel sweeping the room. Truth or the fall. Mom stepped forward, diary snatched, pages tearing as she hurled it into the fire. Truth is overrated. Juliet. Family indoors. Flames devoured her words, smoke curling like ghosts. Harlan laughed. Bitter, she's right.
Kid.
We're all monsters here. The room split, gasps, whispers, some nodding in grim agreement. No heroes, just survivors in pearls and blood. But endurance? It cracked that night. Fisher's spiderwebbing through the facade. As cops swarmed the estate, gun drawn at a holiday soiree makes for headlines. Mom spun the tale. Nervous breakdown. The widow's grief. Psych eval followed. Locked ward in Augusta. White walls leaching color from my world. They called it protective custody, but it felt like the cage I'd escaped. Only softer. Medicated. Orderlies with clipboards. Group therapy circles where I doled out half-truths. My husband. He left me.
Left.
A euphemism for the bullet I'd gifted him.
Inside.
The rage smoldered. Banked but unquenched. Ray visited under false pretenses, a cousin from Macon, slipping notes like contraband smokes. Harlan's singing. DA circling me, the weak link with the signatures. Mom came weekly, perched on vinyl chairs, makeup flawless. We're fighting for you, darling. Dad's pulling strings. The puppetry that strung me up. Her visits devolved to monologues, tales of her own youth, forced into debutante balls by a father who saw daughters as dowries. I did what I had to, for the name. Victim again. Flipping the script to absolve. I probed once. Reckless. And Ethan? You picked him to break me? She stiffened, pearls clicking. To save you. From Harlan's grasp. As if her hands were clean. Spring released me on good behavior. The shrinks deeming me stabilized. Atlanta waited. Humid and unforgiving. The garage sold off to pay debts. I rented a walk-up in Midtown. IKEA sparse. The kind of place where dreams go to die quietly. Freelance editing morphed into ghostwriting, memoirs for minor celebs. Polishing their gloss over grit. Nights. I'd prowl dive bars. Nursing IPAs. Eavesdropping on the broken. Laid-off execs. Jilted lovers. All nursing grudges smaller than mine. 1. A tattooed vet named Marcus. Became a fixture. Rough laugh. Steady hands. What's your poison? He'd ask. Buying rounds. Betrayal. I'd quip. And he'd nod. Like he got it. Sex followed. Frantic and forgetting. His scars mapping mine without questions. But questions brewed elsewhere. Harlan's trial hit the AJC front page. Fraud. Extortion. The works. His testimony? A knife twist naming names, starting with Mom's dalliances, circling to my involvement in the covers. Dad's firm imploded. Partners scattering like roaches. Mom called daily. Voice fraying. He's lying. Juliet. For revenge. Revenge. The word echoed. A mantra. I drove to the courthouse. Incognito in sunnies and hoodie. Watching from the gallery as Harlan took the stand, crutches swapped for a cane. Eyes darting like a trapped fox. Juliet Harrington knew, he spat. Flipping again. From accuser to accused shield? No, pure spite, dragging me down to buoy his bargain. The DA's office summoned me next. Sterile room smelling of stale coffee. Torres, the detective from Ethan's scene, led the dance. We know about the gun. MS. Harrington. And the docs. I lawyered up, Dad's old protege. Slick as sin, and stonewalled. Grief makes monsters, I said, echoing Mom. They had traces, suspicions, but no smoking gun.
Yet.
Tension coiled. A spring wound tight. Marcus sensed it, pulling me close one rain last night. Run with me.
Jules.
California. Start over. Temptation tugged. The American dream repackaged as highway escape. But running? That was surrender. And I'd tasted too much blood. Summer scorched. Wildfires dotting the news like omens. Mom cracked first, a breakdown at the club. Pills washed down with mimosa, landing her in the same ward-eyed fled. Dad visited me instead, diminished in khakis, offering the estate keys. It's yours now. Sell it. Burn it. Whatever. Whatever. The weight of it, porcelain fragility of legacy. I took the keys, drove the winding drive alone. Magnolias mocking with their blooms.
Inside.
Ghosts waited, Ethan's cologne faint in the foyer. Harlan's laughter echoing from empty studies. In Mom's vanity, I found the locket, photo of us girls, young and unscarred. Note tucked inside. Forgive me. I was weak.
Weak.
Or wicked. The line blurred. The plan ignited then. Pyre to the past. Rays sourced the untraceables. Burner. Gloves. A .38 snub from a fence indicator. Target? Not Dad. Broken reed. Not Mom. Wilted rose.
Harlan.
The Hydra head. Scheming from his halfway house. Lawyering up for appeals. Controversial? Hell yes. Vigilante justice in a nation of due process. The kind that splits dinner tables. Is he monster or martyr? I staked him out, blending into the strip mall anonymity. Watching his routines. AA meetings. Takeout tie. Limping to the library for research. One dusk. As cicadas screamed, he emerged, cane tapping like Morse code. I followed to the park, benches shadowed under live oaks. Juliet. He startled, but recovered quick. That shark smile. Come to gloat. I sat. Casual. .38 heavy in my bag. Come to end it. Words spilled then. Cathartic torrent. Ethan's pleas. Mom's tears. Dad's confessions. He listened, flipping to sympathy. I was the fall guy too.
Kid.
Your old man set us all up. Lie or truth. His eyes pleaded, decisions dangling like bait. Help me appeal. We expose him together. Temptation again. Alliance in ashes. But the Hydra needed beheading. As he reached for his phone, let's call my guy, I drew. The pop muffled by thunder rumbling distant. Center mass. No drama. He toppled. Leaves cushioning the fall. Eyes wide in final flip, from foe to fleeting friend. I vanished into the downpour. Bag ditched in a dumpster. Driving east till the skyline swallowed me. Cops swarmed. Headlines screamed. Lawyer gunned down, vigilante or vendetta? Fingers pointed everywhere. Disgruntled clients. Mob ties. Even whispers of me. But alibis stacked. Marcus swearing I was tangled in his sheets. Ray's ghosts muddying tracks. Mom emerged from rehab, gaunt but gleaming, testifying to my fragility. Dad sold the estate. Proceeds funneled to a trust for your future. Future. A word like fog. Fall deepened, leaves rotting underfoot. Marcus proposed over diner pie. Ring from a gumball machine tacky.
True.
Be my nobody. Jules. I laughed. Yes on my lips. But the twist waited. A letter arrived. Postmarked Savannah. Mom's script.
Shaky.
I knew about Harlan's end. Did what I had to for us. Enclosed, immunity papers. My name cleared. Signed by the DA. She'd flipped one last time. Trading her confession for my freedom. The crime I'd borne? Hers alone now. Ledger balanced in legalese. Ending? Not happy. Not tragic, just American. Ambiguous as a jury hung. I burned the papers. Kissed Marcus goodbye. And headed west alone. The highway stretched. Springsteen on the radio crooning of ghosts in the rearview. Vengeance sated. But the hunger lingered. Who was the monster?
Me?
Or the machine that made us? Drive on. Juliet. The debates for the diners left behind.
No.
That wasn't the end. Lies have half-lives. Decaying slow. Poisoning the air long after the blast. California hit like a reset button, salty Pacific breeze scouring the south from my skin. Marcus's ring swapped for a lease on a Venice bungalow. Waves crashing judgment-free. I reinvented. Yoga instructor by day. Churning flows for trust fund divorcees, scribe by night. Penning true crime podcasts that danced too close to my script. Broken Vows, they called the series Ironic Echo. Listeners devouring episodes on betrayals bite without knowing the narrator's teeth marks. Marcus grounded me. His vet steadiness a bomb. Mornings, we'd surf the breaks. Boards slicing swells like knives through regret. You're free now, babe, he'd say. Salt-crusted grin. Oblivious to the shadows I boxed away.
Free.
The word chafed. Ill-fitting as the bikini hiding my Harrington tattoo. Mom's letters trickled in, rehab reflections. Pleas for visits, each stamped with forgiveness I couldn't forge. Dad, radio silence. The estate sale funding his quiet exile to Palm Beach. Golf carts and GNTS his new betrayals. But Harlan's ghost lingered. Inked in news feeds, appeals denied. Suicide in his cell overdose. Official, karma. My whisper. The DA closed the book on Ethan's suicide, chalking it to despair. But Torres called once. Voice gravel. Loose ends. Harrington. Watch your back. Loose ends. The kind that snag and strangle. Paranoia crept. Manifesting in deadbolts and dreamless nights. The .38 stashed under the mattress like a guilty talisman. Winter rains lashed the coast, mirroring the storm inside. The podcast spiked. Episode on family frauds went viral. Trolls dissecting my bias in comment threads. One ping different. Anonymous DM. Link to a Dropbox. Heart slamming. I clicked videos. Grainy. Me in the kitchen. Gun flashing. Attic diary burn. Park shadows swallowing Harlan. Stalker? Setup? The sender. We know. Meet or we share. Blackmail's sequel. Scripted by faceless fiends. Panic propelled me east. Excuses fed to Marcus. Family thing. Atlanta's heat wave hit like accusation. The city pulsing with unfinished business. Ray met me in a Waffle House. Hash browns cooling untouched. Feds, he grunted. Torres's task force. Sniffing old cases. Old cases, Ethan's, Harlan's, the frauds. And the sender? Traced to a VPN in Buckhead, Dad's old firm. Rogue paralegal with a grudge.
Grudge.
The cycles spun eternal. Mom's rehab was a pastel prison outside Savannah. Group therapy chants drifting like hymns. She looked smaller. Chemo-thin, cancer. Stage 3. The final flip from foe to frail. Juliet, she breathed, hugging brittle. We talked real then. No veils. Her affair scream against Dad's cold control. The theft's a Hail Mary for freedom. I made you bear it to toughen you, she confessed. Eyes wet. Toughen. Or torment. Ethan was my test. Could you love beyond the name?
Test.
The word ignited residual rage. You gambled my life. She nodded. Unrepentant. And you'd do it again. For family. Discharge loomed. I drove her home. Not the estate. Sold to developers, but a condo in Midtown. Sterile as a fresh start. Dad appeared. Tanned and tentative. Bearing poinsettias. Truce or trap? Dinner was awkward theater. Take out lo mein. Recriminations wrapped in rice paper. We forgive you, Dad said, meaning forgive us. I laughed.
Sharp.
Forgiveness is cheap. Justice costs. That night. Alone in the guest room. The DMs burned. Another video. Mom's hospital plea. Sender's demand. $500,000. Wired anon. Or viral Armageddon. Dawn broke bloody. Resolve hardening. I traced the paralegal, Lila Voss. Harlan's ex-mistress. Scorned and scheming. Her walk-up reeked of desperation, cat litter and court filings. Confrontation came civil, door knocked. Coffee offered. Why? I asked, perched on her sagging couch. Lila's eyes. Harlan's echo. Narrowed. He promised me the world. You took it.
Took.
As if vengeance was theft. She flipped then, from extortionist to ally. Help me expose the rest. The DA sturdy too. Buried Ethan's ballistics for a cut. Dirtier still. The web widening. The alliance formed uneasy. Two widows weaving a noose. Lila's files spilled. Torres on Harlan's payroll. Fudging reports. Dad's exile. A plea bargain in disguise. Controversial calculus. Burn the badges. Or bargain for peace. We chose fire. Leaks hit the wires. Podcasts. My voice anonymized. Dropping bombs on corruption. Atlanta erupted. Protests at the courthouse. Headlines howling deep state in Dixie. The DA resigned. Torres suspended. Dad's phone blowing up with subpoenas. Mom watched from her condo. For drip mocking. Pride flickering. My girl, she murmured during chemo runs. Pride or poison? The climax crested in a warehouse meet, Lila and I. Wired for the feds we'd turned. Luring the sender's boss, a shadowy fixer tied to it all. Rain hammered the tin roof. Shadows dancing like demons. He arrived cocky. Envelope fat with final payment. Ladies, he sneered. Time to fold. But folds flipped. Lila lunged. Taser crackling, non-lethal. Lawful, dropping him cold. Cops swarmed. Our tip paying off. Bust of the night. Fixer cuffed. Spilling on the chain.
Video seized.
Destroyed in evidence lockers. Justice? Or just another layer peeled? Spring bloomed hesitant. Mom's treatments trailing off. Remission. Fragile as hope. Dad moved in, nursing grudging. The three of us a fragile trinity. We're even, he said over Easter ham. Meaning maybe. I nodded, but the drive west called. Marcus waited. Waves whispering welcome. The twist landed soft. A letter in my P.O. box. Ethan's handwriting. Postmarked pre-death. If you're reading this, I flipped for you, not them. Flash drive was insurance. To free us. Forgive me. Love.
E.
Forged? Real? The debate reignited. Internal now. Had he schemed salvation? Or just another lie? I burned it on the beach. Ashes scattering on the tide. Ending ambiguous. Mom mended. Family fractured, but functional. Me adrift in the American vastness. Revenge's residue a scar. Not shackle. Happy? Tragic? Pick your side. Reader. The story's yours to argue.